So beautiful to be celebrating this Diwali holiday together. We start satsang always with a question that comes in advance from our family joining us online through the beautiful gift of technology. And then we open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. We have a microphone over there, but I'm going to ask them to move it more into the center. And you can come and share your name, share where you're from, and any question that you have. It's a time of diving deep into the truth of who we are. That's what satsang is. It means, thank you, love. It means in the presence of truth. And so any questions that you feel are blocking you or keeping you from living in the highest, deepest, fullest truth of who you are, that's what we are all gathered here for. But first, we start with one that's come from our online family, then we open it up. Very interesting. My dad is 82 with several health issues. My mom is 70. They don't get along anymore. They just fight and argue. They treat each other very badly. There's so many decisions to be made. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, but they always wait for me to solve the problems. I have a family of my own to take care of. I need some advice. This is asked by Marcia. So this is what so many people go through in what we talk about as being like the sandwiched generation. You have elderly parents and young children. And you're trying to caretake on both sides. And of course, given that the young children are the ones you've just brought into the world, there tends to be a bit of a preference, naturally, that I should have the time and the space to take care of my children rather than having to spend all of this time and energy taking care of my parents. And of course, there's no equation, there's no right answer of like, this percentage should go on your kids and this percentage should go on your parents, and take their age and multiply it by Z and then subtract 10 and you'll know how many hours a week you have to spend. There's no equation like that. It has to come from within. But what I would say is, dealing with both elderly parents as well as young children is a lot of logistic management. It's just part of the package. Schools and after-school curricula and lunch bags and play dates and doctor's appointments and dance or music or sports or art or whatever they're doing or tutoring. And with elderly parents, it's doctors and it's healthcare and it's assistance and it's food. And as they get older, it becomes more and more. So it's a lot of logistic management. And I think that the most important key in this is making sure that you have, it's not so much balancing parents versus children. It's much more balancing logistic management with your own practice, your spiritual practice, that takes you out of logistics and into spirit. That's the balance of time and energy, I think, that is most critical. And then the parents and children will, on a day by day, week by week, month by month basis, shift and change. And you'll sort it out. But you've got to make sure, we all do, to take enough time in the day, in the week, in our meditation practices, in our yoga practices, in our spiritual readings, in our chanting, in the seva that we do, whatever it may be, to pull us out of feeling like a rung on a chain, or just a part of kind of a factory moving. Otherwise it can feel like that it's just all sort of about assembly line work, homework, lunch bags, medicine, doctors, food, this, and it's constant. And you want them both to be joyful. You want parenting your children to be joyful in the midst of the logistics. And you want spending the last days or months or years with your ailing parents to also be something that when you look back on these days after your parents have passed on, that you don't feel like you missed the opportunity to be present in service. Because it looks like logistics, but it's actually an opportunity to be of service and to drop into that service. One of my favorite spiritual teachers, Ram Dass, talks about when he was taking care of his father who was dying. And Ram Dass was already like a really very, very renowned spiritual leader. He was already this big author and speaker, and his siblings had jobs and families and other things, and so couldn't really take care of dad, so it was left up to him. And what the dad used to like to do was play this game called Yahtzee, of like cards and dice and whatnot. And Ram Dass was talking about how in the beginning it felt really like beneath him, you're a spiritual person and now you're just, called upon to like play Yahtzee. And yet, the awareness that that idea was itself the block, that it wasn't the game. And then, of course, when it became later and it was washing and it was diapers and it was bathing and it was feeding, that none of that was the problem itself. The problem was the games of the ego that say, it's much more spiritual for me to be writing a book or giving a lecture or meditating than to be playing Yahtzee or walking my dad to the bathroom. And that actually that belief is what we need to be free of, so that all of this becomes spiritual practice. And he said, that for him, it was being in the now, and the now is a game of Yahtzee. Okay, here we are. How can that be the meditation of today? And I found it such a beautiful teaching on so many levels, but especially dealing with my mom who's had a stroke and with massive, massive, devastating cognitive impairments, and just knowing what the next months, years are going to be. But also it's such a beautiful teaching about all of the logistic stuff that we have to do anyway in our life, whether it's for your ailing parents, whether it's for kids, whether it's for spouses, whether it's for an employer, and how that which makes it drudgery is the mind, not the action itself. And how even sitting and playing a game of Yahtzee becomes a spiritual practice. walking dad to the bathroom, bathing him, cleaning him up. That is the meditation of the day. And so in terms of this idea of, why is everything left to me? Why am I I'm 4 siblings, but I'm the oldest. Why do I have to do it all? And I want to have more time for this. I think to the extent that we can open our minds and our hearts to what the universe presents and recognize that as the work we are meant to do right now. It's been a really powerful teaching also from Pujya Swamiji for all of these years. And, when I first came in, I came in as a graduate student, and I had volunteered at different organizations. I had worked for Greenpeace and other environmental organizations. I'd worked in a hospital. I'd worked in different volunteer places. And everywhere that I worked, there was this sense of, here's our 5-year plan. Here's our 10-year plan. Here's our annual budget. Here's how we work under that, plan under that. And Pujya Swamiji's mantra and mission statement was basically just, yes. Like, out of the blue, a school needs to be built in this place. Okay. An earthquake has happened. Homes need to be built. Okay. A tsunami has happened. Everything needs to be rebuilt. Okay. And there was never a question of but this, but what about these things? But it was just yes. With such a fullness of self, of intention, that not only do financial resources manifest where they didn't previously exist, but all of the other aspects of life that you thought you couldn't possibly juggle along with this, you discover you can. Or you discover they weren't important to begin with and they fizzle out. But to the extent that we can allow that mantra to be yes, now I have aged, ailing parents who need X, Y, and Z. Okay, here we are. And now I have young children who need X, Y, and Z. Here we are. And allowing ourselves to show up to the moment, not as martyrs who decide that, okay, I'm not going to just sleep for the next 5 years, but with the full intention of giving our full yes to all of it, while we know that we also have to take care of the vehicle. And whether it's sleep, whether it's food, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's a walk in nature. But knowing that without a fully functioning physical, emotional, spiritual tool, neither am I going to be able to take care of my parents nor children. And if we can just allow the yes to happen, one of the things I notice is that we spend so much more time agonizing over how we're going to get X, Y, and Z done, that if we actually took all of the time that we spend agonizing or complaining or getting advice or sharing our agony with someone else, and we actually took all of that time and just did X, Y, and Z, it would actually take so much less time. If you think about all of the time of I'm going to think about it, I'm going to talk to somebody about it, I'm going to talk to somebody else about it, I'm going to, agonize over it, now I need to go and have a spa day because I've been agonizing over it. And you think, we add up all the time that we put into why I don't have time to do this for parents, children, community, next door neighbors, best friend, whatever, whomever it may be. And if we actually just did it, we'd find that we had so much more time. And again, of course, that doesn't mean be a martyr. It doesn't mean neglect the self. It doesn't mean be Superman or Superwoman and expect that you can do everything. But it just means showing up to the world with yes as the response, with the assumption that if the universe has put this in my lap, it's been put in my lap for a reason. And if it's been put in my lap, the tools to deal with it are going to arise. Because if I know that I don't have the tools, surely the divine knows that I don't have the tools. Like when we were sent down to South India to do tsunami relief work. No pre-existing budget, no money in the bank to rebuild villages and feed communities of thousands of people. But it arises. It just arises in the saying of yes to things. And so what I would suggest is your parents call on you to be the one to decide, okay, help them decide. Your kids need something, do it. If you can't do them both simultaneously, tell one of them it's going to wait an hour or a day or a week. But instead of moving into the moment with the awareness that there is a problem here, move into the moment with the awareness that you're going to be able to do it. And sleep, and eat, and meditate. And just move through the day with that flow. And yeah, at the end of the day, are there things that get left undone? Absolutely. And does that mean that we are any less worthy of occupying our place on planet Earth? No. But it's a lesson. It's a lesson I deal with, on a regular basis. There will be days that go by that I didn't get up to see my mom, and by the time I walk into my office and realize I haven't seen her, it's 10 o'clock at night and she's gone to bed, and you have the bad daughter moment. And then you come back to yourself and you realize, I really did the best I could. Like I really just showed up to every moment today, and this is what the day looked like. Okay? So I'll get up to see her tomorrow. And allowing that to just be, okay, you can't do it all in every day. You can't do it all in every week. But we show up with yes. We show up with sincerity. And things will take care of themselves. They really will. Our agonizing and agony and worrying and stress takes up so much time and energy that actually ends up debilitating us much more than anything else. Yeah, great question. Any questions that anyone here has? Yes, come please. Yeah, and just share your name and share where you're from. And by the way, you don't have to raise your hand and wait for me to call on you. If you have a question, just feel free to come up to the mic.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm from Mexico. So my question is, I know the soul is eternal. I do believe it. But there are times when thoughts arises, with doubts, right? Like, what if it is not true? What if you're so sure about it, what if you die tonight? Are you ready for that? And when these kind of thoughts come to my mind, I realize that I'm not. Honestly, I'm not. So what do we do in those kind of cases? I mean, what kind of things can we do to kind of like get rid of those thoughts? In case that we can get rid of those thoughts, maybe we cannot get
I'm so sorry, I didn't understand that last part.
Like to get rid of those thoughts, in case that we can get rid of those, right? Maybe it's a matter of know how to play with your mind and not be the enemy, right? But so any advice on that would be useful.
Great. Yeah. So thought management. Thought management is the key to basically everything that we want in life. Happiness, peace, success, freedom, certainly enlightenment, if you have the divine audacity to visualize at that level. But even if all you say is, I just want peace, I just want happiness, I just want to live a nice life, we still need thought management. It's critical for all of the layers. And it's critical because even if my ultimate aim is only to make a whole bunch of money and build a really big house that makes everybody on my block jealous, if I cannot put my thoughts on getting me out of bed every day, getting me into the office, working my, rear end to the bone, working through family obligations, not meditating, not exercising, just work, work, work. If I can't get my thoughts in alignment for that, I'm going to naturally want to do other things. But if my ultimate goal is just making a bunch of money and building a big house, even for that level of superficial material goal, I still need thought management. And certainly when what I want is spiritual awakening, enlightenment, freedom, deep joy, deep peace. Because our thoughts are that which steal it. Much more so than our external environment, it's our understanding of the environment. Typically, how personally we take it. So you raised a great point. The first question being, is it true? Is what I'm thinking true? Chances are, no. We have this illusion that because I think it, it's true. 9 times out of 10, what you think is not true. And it's not that we're stupid. It's just that our mechanism of thought is built upon, imagine that you had a computer, artificial intelligence, that instead of being built upon actual facts, actual information, we're simply fed on the projected neuroses of everybody you'd known in your entire life. Beginning with your parents, then your teachers, and that became the building blocks of your internal computer system. Well, obviously, whatever you feed into it, you're going to get neurosis back. Because that's what we built it on. We built it on ignorance, we built it on fear, we built it on desire, we built it on confusion. Because that's the stuff that we take in. We get it in our childhood, we get it in our education system, we get it in our culture. We get it now in the news because it's what sells. Social media, news media, all of it is now in a situation where it is being literally crafted and curated to terrify us and outrage us and make us feel awful about ourselves and awful about the world we live in. Because it's financial. The more outraged I am, the more likely I am to comment on something or watch another video, and the longer I do that, the more that platform makes on the fact that my eyeballs have stayed on the screen for that long. If it fills me with joy to go out and take a walk, then I'm a financial loss for the company. They need me to stay glued, so they got to keep me outraged, engaged, terrified. Then I'll stay on. Then I'll engage. They have to make us feel like we are unworthy, not good enough, because then we click and buy whatever they're selling. So the stuff that we took in our childhoods and our culture happened kind of accidentally, automatically. Nobody intended to ruin our minds. But now it's actually much more insidious. Now there are calculated algorithms, truly set to mess with our brains. So it's no wonder that we cannot trust the thoughts in our own heads. The goal is not to do battle with them, though, as you say, get rid of the thoughts. Because every time I say I'm going to get rid of that thought, that's a thought. Right? And it's like that famous example that I love about when you sit to meditate, whatever you do, just don't think about elephants. Think about anything else, no elephants. Just make sure you don't think about an elephant. Now, if we close our eyes to meditate right now, what is the first thing that's going to come to everybody's mind? So, when you say, I don't want these thoughts, no more lustful thoughts, no more thoughts that I'm not worthy, no more thoughts of divisiveness, no more violence. Every time you say that word, violence, lust, greed, ignorance, that's what's brewing inside you. I just say the word lust and suddenly like sexual pictures arise in my mind. It's natural. You say the word violence and suddenly I can see blood and guns and knives. I say the word not enoughness and suddenly, even without visual imagery, I have a felt sense experience of contraction. Because those words in our minds impact us. And our body doesn't notice that there is a not or don't in front of it. All the mind-body hears is anger, violence, hate, lust, insecurity. And we react accordingly. You know, it's like we're at a dance and they say salsa and we do the salsa and they say now ramba. We're not listening to the part of the mind that says not that. So instead of trying to push the thoughts away, what's much more effective is to have different thoughts, consciously, deliberately, to curate what you're going to think about. This is the power of chanting a mantra. Now I have something to think about. It's divine. It's actually an alchemically powerful reverberation through me. It's what affirmations do. It's what prayers do. It could be anything. But choose things that you will think about instead. What will your mind do? Give it something to do. Just like you would with a baby or a puppy that you're trying to train. You can't just say, don't bother me. It means nothing to a child or a puppy dog. You got to give it something different to do. Here's a bone, here's a toy, here's a this. Then they'll be fine. But if you just say, don't bother me, it's not going to work. Give the mind something else to do. And then, on an even higher level, begin with that. Then on a higher level, work with finding actual spaciousness in between the thoughts. So you will develop the ability to cultivate what is called a no-mind state, in which the mind just stops. It just settles. It just is in the moment. Sadly, it doesn't last very long like that for most of us. Another thought will arise. And then you bring it back. And these are what all of our spiritual techniques are for. is to help us string together enough moments of spaciousness, of no mind. And to know, when the mind comes back, another thought, another reaction, another sensation, how do we free ourselves of it? Not by pushing it away, not by saying, no more lust, like stop doing that in my head. Not that. It's like saying, get out, elephant. Now you can be sure for the next 10 minutes, all you're going to be thinking is elephants. But instead, you just bring the mind back to whatever you were using. The mantra, the breath, the prayer, the affirmation. You just bring it back, you bring it back. And then slowly it quiets again. So you work with it in that way. But don't try to push anything out of your mind. Just work by building it differently. Beautiful, yeah. Other questions? Yes, please. Anybody come? Yes, come. You're right here. Come, yeah, come.
Hello. Hello. My name is Carole. I'm coming from France, and I'm 48 years old. I have a question. When we have a pain in the body, how can we know if the pain is coming from maybe the mind or maybe...
How do you know if the what is coming?
The pain. When you have pain somewhere in the body. Yeah. So how can we maybe... sorry for my English. Get rid of this pain? From the mind, maybe it comes from a karmic life, we don't know, so it was my question.
When you talk about getting out of pain, are you speaking to an emotional pain that's in the mind or something
physical.
That is actually going on in the body?
Yeah, physical pain. Yeah.
Okay. So working with physical pain is really, really, really interesting. First of all, we do know that the mind plays a huge role in it. A huge role. And that's very important and very powerful because otherwise we say, well, there's nothing I can do. It's my leg, it's my back, it's my stomach, it's my neck, it's my head. There have been lots and lots and lots of studies and research done on, for example, things like practice of mindfulness. And many other spiritual techniques. Mindfulness just happens to be something that there's a lot of research around, but lots of other spiritual techniques on working with pain. Obviously, we do with the body whatever the doctors tell us, whether it's rest, whether it's physiotherapy, whether it's certain exercises, whatever that may be. But then, what the mind typically does when there is pain is the mind wants to ignore it or be free of it. And very much like the elephant situation, all that does is it pits us against ourselves. There is pain that is existing, the mind is registering it, the brain is registering it, but then the same brain is trying to push it away. And we are fighting ourselves. Instead, here's what I found. And I found it personally long before I read any of the research around it, but as I've read research, it's just wonderful and fun because it's like, oh yeah, I tried that. My experiments began in this very room when I first moved to Parmarth Niketan. When the 5 a.m. prayers that take place here were compulsory. Ladies on this side, men on this side, and it's 30 minutes approximately of prayers in Sanskrit and in Hindi, and then a 30-minute lecture in Hindi. And I would come and sit. And even though I was already a yoga doing student, a asana doing student, I never had spent time sitting cross-legged. And so I wasn't out of shape, but this was not a habit that I had. And within about 15, 20 minutes or so, it hurts. Your knees, your hips, like they're on fire, they're falling asleep. And I learned very quickly that it was considered quite rude. In the middle, you'd have saints sitting on the stage. You can't just go, oh yeah, like, you can't do it. The moment you even have the thought, the lady next to you is jabbing you, or literally grabbing your legs, like putting them back. So I learned how to change the cross of my legs, kind of without anybody noticing, or in as delicate and, graceful a fashion as I could. But there were days in which it was so packed in here that there was not actually room. I mean, imagine having another body here, and another body here, and another body here, literally. There's no room to move. And what I discovered was, as my hips felt like somebody literally had lit matches underneath them, and my knees, it was awful. I discovered that as my brain said, oh my God, I can't handle this, and I tried to take my mind off of it, it didn't work, the pain got worse. No matter what I did, the pain got worse. And I then, at some point, I don't know how it occurred to me, but I tend to take myself kind of lightly and have a lot of just interest and fascination in the human psyche. And anyway, and at one point, I turned toward my pain and I said, all right, give me your best shot. Give me your best shot. Like, give it all to me. I can take it. And the more pain that started coming, the more obnoxious I got toward it. And it was just, come on, is that all you got? I'm still here. I haven't changed the cross of my legs. I haven't run out of here screaming. I'm still here. Come on, give me your best shot. Get hotter. And I would taunt it and play with it. And what I discovered, interestingly, was it actually worked. That kind of light-hearted, toying taunting with that experience that my body was having actually took away a lot of the pain. And, in the Buddhist tradition, there's a very core teaching called the second arrow. The first arrow is that which hurts us, quite literally, physical pain, or a loss in some way, but something that happens to us. It's there, it's physical, it's tangible, it exists. The second arrow is the voice in our head about the first arrow. So I'm on my way to a first date with someone who I think is going to be the one. And as I walk out of my house, I trip and I fall flat on my face, and I give myself a bloody nose and a black eye, not to mention ruining my clothes. That's the first arrow. I've got a bloody nose, I've got a black eye, I've got torn clothes. The second arrow is the why me, it's not fair, I hate life. The universe is against me. That's the second arrow. And in a lot of cases, the second arrow causes much deeper and more lasting pain than the first arrow. First arrow requires some ice on your nose, ice on your eye, maybe a little bit of, cover-up foundation, and a change of clothes, and maybe an Advil. And you've got a good story to walk into your first date with. Right? Your opening line gets to be, I only get better, or something. But the second arrow will debilitate you. The second arrow is the forget it. I knew it wasn't going to work. I knew that I wasn't meant to have happiness. And the second arrow calls off the date and sits at home and feels awful for yourself. When things happen in life that are essentially out of our control, a physical ailment, an injury, an illness, a loss, something that happens, it hurts. We deal with it. The better able we are to keep the second arrow from being fired, the more resilient we're going to be. The first arrow comes from outside. The second arrow comes from inside. So you don't have any control over the first arrow. I mean, I guess I could have been more graceful or paying more attention or turned on the porch light or something, but basically I had no control over falling. I certainly didn't plan it. But the second arrow, we have full control over, because that's the voice in our head. And so if you can work with the second arrow, play with the pain. I mean, obviously do everything your doctor says. But when it arises, instead of letting the second arrow be shot from the mind, just toy with the pain. Oh, come on, you were more yesterday. Are you getting weak? Oh, come on, really? That's it? Look at me, I'm still smiling. You got nothing on me. Just play with it. And I'll give you the last piece of this that to me is one of the most powerful pieces of information for life. More than 50% of people who have a limb amputated, it's gone. More than 50% of people who have a limb amputated have pain, serious, debilitating pain in the limb that they have had amputated. Now wrap your mind around that. I had an arm that was infected, gangrene, whatever it was, it needed to be removed. I no longer have an arm. Now I am suffering excruciating pain in my arm. More than 50%. And this is like documented as serious illness. This is not just psychosomatic stuff. And the reason for me that this is so powerful is we think the pain is in my arm, for God's sakes. Like, what am I supposed to do about it? I'm in pain. Well, if you don't have an arm, how is the pain in your arm? And it makes us know the pain is in the mind. You have an arm, you don't have an arm. Either way, the pain is in the mind. Because even when you remove the arm, the pain is still there. Leg is gone. Leg pain is still there. It's in the mind. And the treatment for this, because they do treat it. It took them forever to figure out how to treat it. They treat it with smoke and mirrors, mind games. Literally, boxes and mirrors that trick the mind into thinking the arm is back. And then they get somebody to come in and do a reset of it. It's smoke and mirrors. It's working with the two different lobes of the brain and our visual fields and literally just confusing the brain into seeing something actually on the left but thinking it's the right. and seeing the arm, and now seeing a doctor or a chiropractor or a massage person come in and work out the pain. And it treats it. Illusions. And I mention this because this is how powerful our mind is. Saying it's all in the mind has gotten a really bad rap because it makes us feel like we're stupid. It makes us feel like we're crazy. It makes us feel like we should just be able to snap out of it. It took scientists, God knows how many decades or centuries to figure out how to deal with phantom limb pain. Because it exists. The fact that it's all in the mind doesn't mean you're imagining it. It just means it's in your mind. But we still have to deal with it. So you work with the mind around the pain. Yes, wonderful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. I know there were more questions that we didn't have a chance to get to, but we will take them as our first question tomorrow. Kalabi, hey, wonderful. So we'll start with those tomorrow, and a beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And as I mentioned in Ganga Arati, tomorrow is New Year for all of our sisters and brothers from Gujarat. But it's a holiday that I think we should all actually co-opt because we all need some newness. And why not have an auspicious opportunity to start a new habit or let go of a habit or anything that you want to shift in your life. Tomorrow is the new year, so fortunately we can all grab that holiday as well, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Pujya Sadhviji, for the beautiful sharing of your wisdom and guiding us with your incredible knowledge and heartfelt words always. If you didn't get a chance to ask a question, and you're here tomorrow, of course, ask your question. But if you are not able to, there's cards in the back where you can write your question down. Leave your email address. We'll let you know when your question is answered. We'll get back in touch with you. Someone asked me the other day, well, if I write down my question, how will I ever know that it's answered? But we definitely want your question to be answered, and we want you to know about it. So fill out one of the cards in the back. Also, if you're online, you can go to sadhviji.org, and we have a form there, and you can leave your question. Be sure to look into our beautiful podcast called Ask Sadhviji. It's everywhere podcasts are found, and it's meditations and questions from satsang that have been specifically selected that seem to be very evergreen and universal, and sometimes very unique questions that we've never had answered before. So make sure you check that out. Also in the back, we have cards that have all the ways you can stay in touch with us. So pick one of those up on the way out. One last thing is tonight, following satsang, have some dinner, have a break, but at 9 p.m. at the ground floor yoga hall, which is all the way in the back, we have a wonderful healing sound bath with one of our beloved